I was only listening to something last night where they were saying crypto was kind of the buzzword of a year or two ago, and that's all kind of come crumbling down.
Yeah.
But this kind of dawn of AI that is kind of not Terminator or Matrix style, where it's kind of taking over the world.
Going once, going twice, sold! You're listening to The Property Pod.
All right, guys, welcome back to The Property Pod, your weekly engagement into real estate here in the Hobart Marketplace. I'm your host, Aaron Horn, and we are back in action at the desk. Powerhouse Property Pod team, John McGregor and Patrick Berry, welcome back. Martin Evans, please be quiet in the background. He came in this morning, just sorry, anyone that didn't hear that, Martin Evans, real estate agent here, is screaming from the rooftops. He came in with a very joyous hello.
Yeah, he was almost singing it. You know?
Yeah.
Hello, boy.
What's been happening? Has he been just slamming deals in the last few days?
I think he has closed out a few deals,
he's
so he's probably on a bit of an endorphin high at the moment.
Yeah.
So normally I try and steer the ship away from real estate in the early days of the podcast just to warm myself up and just to talk about the things I know about. But
actually, if we weren't talking about real estate, we'd probably have a very dynamic podcast.
But I want to jump straight in because I think I saw on Friday coming through the workplace chat. It's 5 contracts, no, it wasn't Friday. That was Good Friday. Did 5 contracts just slam down, we made all these sales. What's happening?
I think Wednesday, Thursday we had a heap, and then over the weekend I think we had another 4 as well
Yeah.
at the Easter break. So yeah, it's been a busy couple of days.
So what's this all about? What's going on? Why?
Dad reminded me of 2 words: feast or famine. That's just how it works.
Oh.
It just you'll have these moments of nothing, where you're doing all the work and it's just a forever grind, and then all of a sudden it just falls, like the waterfall or something. Just
I think as well, whenever you plan to have a couple of days off, that's when you're always busy. So
Yeah.
the Easter break, 4-day weekend, you're like, yeah, I'm going to get away, going to have a little bit of time off. And bang, that's when everyone wants to list and sell their houses.
Yeah. And also too, your focus becomes almost just laser-like. I'll have days where it's
So we're lazy 90% of the time, but a weekend away before.
Yeah.
So why don't you just book holidays every third day?
For a 4-day week.
Yeah. Look, we should turn it into a 4-day week. They're trialing in Norway and all these countries. It seems to be working. People will buy on that day that you don't want to be working.
Yeah, exactly. So, we'll just flag that as put that in the next sales meeting.
Speaking of feast or famine, all I could think of was how appropriate for the Last Supper across the Easter weekend that, feast or famine, we've famine and into a feast. And if I keep saying feast or famine, one of you will jump on board. What I'm saying, totally understand.
I was just waiting to see where this is going.
I was trying to find it.
I just wanted to find out about your Easter, basically. Tell me, I know you went away, Pat. I wanted to know, see how now I'm diverging away from real estate to try and
Back to where you wanted to be.
back to where I want to be.
Yeah.
So hit me
I
with...
sure did go away to the lovely town of St. Helens.
Nice. Yeah, very nice.
And the best bit about St. Helens around the Easter period is it is chockers, and so therefore the internet doesn't work, therefore your phone does not work. So regardless if I had any deals to do, John, couldn't access them anyway.
Delegation.
Because whatever is going up there, the phone system cannot handle the influx of people.
The tourism.
I was up the East Coast as well across the Easter weekend, and the same thing happened. It happens at Christmas and Easter. Seems to be all the people on the East Coast are there. People are trying to access their phones, and the internet just doesn't like it, which I actually really like. I really enjoy it. There was a few times where I was playing with Jack, my eldest, and I was just like, I'd probably by now would have normally picked up my phone and looked at it for no apparent reason.
Yep.
But I was like, I'm in the zone. This is way more fun. I wish the internet didn't work all the time.
Well, look, when because I've got Reddit on my phone, and that place is just a rabbit hole. The second it starts, and that's the problem about the phones now. With all the different sites, they are geared just to absorb your entire attention, and all of a sudden 10 minutes goes past. Holy crap! I just completely lost who I was for a minute. It's almost like a time jump. So you can't...
A time jump.
You can't feel too guilty sometimes when you accidentally just jump into it out of force of habit and boom, all that time's gone. Because it's just all of it's geared to capture your attention.
Yeah, well, that's an actually really interesting way to kind of spin into what we're talking about. It sounds like we're kind of negatively discussing technology, but what I kind of wanted to jump into was the way AI is shaping. It seems to be the buzzword of this year. I was only listening to something last night where they were saying crypto was kind of the buzzword of a year or two ago, and that's all kind of come crumbling down.
Yeah.
But this kind of dawn of AI that is kind of not Terminator or Matrix style where it's kind of taking over the world just yet. Please don't hurt us, overlords. As I look up to the computer screen to see if the camera's on me. Hail you. It's just really interesting the way that artificial intelligence has kind of come into our world in 2023. I know there's been early forms of it, and I know you can talk to Pat kind of what we are experiencing with AI at the moment and kind of the idea of it's not a big mega computer that's kind of coming to take over.
AI scares a lot of people because they think it's going to replace jobs. They think people are basically screwed and that the robots are only a week away from taking over.
Yep.
But what we actually got is what they call narrow AI, which basically means that it can do tasks, but not as good or as efficient as what a human can do. So every bit of AI tech out there at the moment is in the narrow field of AI. Now, they believe that it can get to what they call general AI, but general AI they still believe is a long way away. And then general AI is where AI and humans are competing on the same level. And then super AI, they don't even know if that'll ever exist, but that's where AI is more intelligent than humans.
And so with that too, that would mean that the AI is actually implementing the work, isn't it? So replacing the human.
Yeah. So, super AI is your Terminator scenario where the robots control. iRobot I was thinking of last night when we were talking about.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Yeah, Will Smith and where he has feelings.
What's that other one where they true crimes where they stop the crimes before they happen?
Oh, Minority Report.
Oh, see, there's lots of. Well, they weren't AI though. I probably jumped off there. They were just.
Nah, they were. Yes, that was a bit different, but still based on like the Philip K. Dick writings of sci-fi of this idea, which was years and years in the past, like way back when these sci-fi concepts of, a communication device that you could carry around with you was kind of this amazing thing that people had thought of. Now it's like if your kid, my 1-year-old literally knows how to scroll on his phone and do all the things.
Getting off topic here, but back to Minority Report.
Yeah, I'll talk Minority Report all day, baby.
I do love the tech in that didn't exist at the time. And the one that I always remember is when he's walking through the city and all the ads are aimed at him.
Yeah.
Like all the billboards are just ads to him and what he's interested in. And I'm like, man, they actually had an idea. It was like Simpsons, they predicted the future before it came a future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to go into that, Spielberg, who made that film, literally went to a futurist and said, what's coming down the pipe, and they did so much work into even all this swipe technology and stuff that they do with the computer interfaces isn't exactly the same as what we have, but a bunch of the stuff is touchscreen, a bunch of the way that all the automated cars are working and stuff is not too far away from what they're thinking. And the targeted ads was a really big one. Was what we get on our computers now and marketed to us is all these targeted ads. It's the exact same thing where they're walking through, it says, oh, this is Thomas Anderton. Boom, you're interested in this. So it's not so far from the future.
Even the
of what we
screens now,
expect.
they've got it so you only see a specific image as well. Even that's been slowly starting to be able to implement it, which is crazy.
Yeah, so Minority Report, great movie.
Yeah, no, absolutely cracker. Yeah.
I just want the one day for computers to actually feel and look as cool as they do in movies. So no one ever uses a mouse on like the Windows or Apple desktop. It's like they only use keyboard and type really quickly.
Well, it's look, we're diverging here, but like your kid, no, but your kids, I'm thinking of the way that they can like use the computers and stuff. Like your son yesterday said, "Oh, computers are so hard to use, Dad."
Yeah.
But he loves the tablet. Like he knows, and it's not using a mouse; it's using your finger. My son will be, trying to touch my laptop screen. It's not a touch screen. And he'll be so confused, being like, well, why isn't it doing the thing I want it to do?
I've been arguing with my daughter because she's not a great reader at the moment and we're trying to help her. She's like, why do I need to read? I can just talk to my computer and tell it what I needed to do. And she does. She literally presses the microphone and just speaks to it, and then it brings back the results that she's after.
Yeah, exactly. So
her argument is, I don't need to learn to read, Dad.
It's a pretty hard argument to get over to go, sweetheart, you're going to need this for your life. It's like, why?
Why?
Look, what everything's happening exactly as I needed to without reading.
But if you go back to when we were at school, the idea of a calculator was cheating. Like if you had a calculator in maths class, it's cheating. Whereas now the teaching is, oh, you don't know how to solve it? Like go to a calculator, it'll help you. So it's all adapting to the times and being able to move forward with what that generation is going to use, which is where kind of this AI stuff coming into real estate's really interesting. Is you guys have worked in a time when, you're writing all your own property text, or you're doing all the tasks that it takes to list a property. A bunch of that stuff can now be automated through this kind of machine learning. How is that opening up your time to kind of maximize your clients' needs?
It's really interesting. The way I see AI, it's a tool to help us have better conversations and offer a better service to our clients.
Yep.
It's never going to replace us and our knowledge that we have, but if it can give us the information faster, then we can have a better, more detailed conversation to help people better understand their own needs and circumstances.
Yeah, for sure. So all this kind of data being crunched together at once can then shoot out a result that says, let's go this way.
And we use a bucket load of different AI products here at 414. I'm a nerd at heart, so I love to buy a robot wherever I can get one. But some of the ones that I think are really cool that we are using is like, if you look at our website, 414.com.au, we have a what is your home worth calculator. And that's in conjunction with RP data, where you can just type in your address of your home. And then RP data will give you a guesstimation as to what the home is worth. And it'll even give you a indication of how confident it is with its result. So it'll say low confidence, medium confidence, high confidence. And it does that by searching the internet, finding recent sales, looking at market trends from companies like the REIT that you love, John, to see, is the market going up in that area? Is it going down? Like, it's madness the amount of data it has access to be able to give you a rough idea of what the home's worth.
Yeah, so what we're kind of talking about in this AI space currently is the ability for the machine to go and access all that data, collate it together in a quick way. Like, you guys could be crunching all these numbers sitting at your desk doing it manually to kind of work out, I've checked this suburb and it's worth all this. This is kind of this instant feedback loop of, here's the stuff, and we can now present it to our vendor or owner
I think
or
back
potential
to
buyer.
when John and I started, what would it be? About half an hour to 50 minutes you'd probably spend researching the property, maybe even longer.
Only because the information wasn't so readily available, for sure.
Yeah, but you used to spend a lot of time looking at graphs and trying to better understand what suburbs were doing, looking at recent sales. Now you can just click a button and say, what is Moona doing? And it'll just spit out all the data and say, Moona is trending upwards, downwards, it's neutral. Like, it's just amazing how quickly you can get access to that information now and laid out really clearly so you can interpret it and understand it better.
Yeah, and then basically be able to relay that to the people that you need it to, or kind of, I'm looking for an instant price. Oh, well, the data I've got is actually 3 months old. I can't actually tell you what the market's doing at the moment, whereas you can be getting this up to date.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's it. So the data we get access to tends to be a few months behind because it needs a sale to be recorded and then logged in the database.
Okay, yep.
So in markets that are shifting like we're experiencing at the moment, prices that are being spat out on these automatic systems aren't always necessarily accurate
to the day and date, but they're not.
It gives us a starting point for us to then go and refine it to a better answer. So we can then look at that and say, yeah, that would have been correct 6 months ago or 3 months ago.
Yep.
But now the market's doing this, so let's take that price and adjust it to meet where the current market might sit.
This is a really cool point because this is kind of where my next venture into a bunch of these AI tools are really handy tools, and they'll get you kind of 90% of the way there. But
that's where your human aspect needs to come
exactly. So we're still important because there's a bunch of tools that I'll use that will help me out, and I'll just be like I've got, for example, in my side of the fence, doing a bunch of digital styling and kind of making a place look nice. There's these AI kind of, it's like a content aware fill, we'll call it, where it'll basically take the image, it'll have a room that's full of items, and it's only in kind of a beta testing mode at the moment, the one I'm using, but basically it'll anticipate what's behind there based on looking at the wall or the color of it, and it'll fill it in.
Like remove an item.
Remove an item out of the space to make an empty room, which I can then put the digital furniture on top of.
So an example for listeners might be, I'm imagining we've got a room, Aaron, and in the corner there's a pile of boxes because a tenant's got, all their stuff stacked up.
Or the dirty washing that didn't get moved, didn't really want to touch the person's undies, so it was just like, I'll remove that in the computer later. There's now tools that are using machine learning to work out, this is the corner of the room. I can remake this in the computer, and there's a bunch of this stable diffusion. We could really go into how it's happening, but essentially it's trying to recreate what it thinks is there.
Yeah.
And it's 90% of the way there, and then I'll have to go in and touch it up. But it's getting better weekly. Each time I go back and test this tool, I'm like, I couldn't do that last week. Like, so it's learning the tricks of the trade. And then there's also ones that I've seen where when I'm editing photos, if I do it enough and put enough input in, an AI can learn my editing style and then kind of recreate a bunch of those edits.
Yep.
So all these little tools are kind of making a bunch of the time suck tasks become way, way easier. And then you can focus your time on
refinement,
on kind of more productive things. Like
the one I hate is property text. Absolutely hate writing property text. And everyone would have heard, or most people now would have heard of ChatGPT, and that thing has just game changer.
Blown up.
Like, I'll be honest, it writes some absolute rubbish sometimes, but at least what I've found with when I use that to write my property text is I used to get stuck in a loop. And I don't know if you ever experienced this, John, where I would, if I'm writing property text, I'd look back at the last 10 properties I wrote, and most of them sound pretty much the same. I'm just replacing 3 bedrooms with 2 bedrooms, open plan living with separate lounge room. But the actual flow of the story was always relatively close. Where with ChatGPT, it gets a lot of stuff wrong, back to that 90% aspect. But it helps me make the story sound different every time. So I will tell it, I want you to aim it towards an investor for me because that's who I think's best suited.
Yep.
And it'll write me a script. And then all I have to do is just go back in and fix the little bits that don't make sense.
Yeah.
Like
So
when it thinks it's got 3 bedrooms and it's actually 4 bedrooms, I just have to go tweak that. Or, you know, sometimes it might say beautiful views of hilly countrysides and it's in the dead center of the city. Like it just makes some things up because it doesn't know the answers. I mean, you just got to fix those bits.
yeah, so that all comes down to the prompts that you're putting in and kind of refining the prompts of, you know, you could say something along the lines of using your old address, Turnbull Crescent. Please search Turnbull Crescent, certain number, and find previous data and extrapolate on that and write a property text for me. So the more you refine the data into the prompt, so this is where it comes really interesting into a good agent and a lazy agent is you could literally take the one that it spat out originally, put it out live just because you're just like, oh, ChatGPT said it was this. And then you're getting all these calls saying, oh, where's the 4th bedroom or where's the beautiful mountain views? Whereas if you're a good agent, you're taking that time to then be like, okay, yep, I've used a tool to get me 90% of the way.
Get me started.
Now let's maximize my time by fixing up that little bit. This could have taken me an hour in the past. It's taken me 2 minutes to get to here. Now it's taking me the next 10 minutes to fix up that little bit.
And make it perfect.
Well, that's, I suppose, the last 10% where the human involvement needs to come in. And for our role specifically, which is ultimately to, you know, bring 2 parties to assist in making a decision to move forward with a sale of a home or a deal or a, you know, lease or whatever.
Yep.
So, like, go back to the data examples. Is what was that? What's the biggest website in Zillow?
Yep.
Zillow. They I know we've talked about it a few years back now, I suppose, where they tried to use the AI assisted price. And then from that, you could just do an instant deal. So
you could just sell your house to Zillow with 3 clicks.
They lost hundreds of millions of dollars.
Oh.
Because what they said was in real estate, it's a unique aspect because it zeroes down almost to the street level, you know, and also then on street level condition, does it have views, etc. So there's such a human element involved in the purchasing of real estate because obviously we're living in it. And there's examples where two that came to mind just recently. There was a couple that hadn't sold for a couple of decades. One of the guy was a car salesman, and I just asked, look, well, what do you, how do you see our role in this? What do you see differently? They just sort of palmed off the fact was like, oh, you young guys, even though we're coming up nearly 20 years in this game now, you're just
That's
using.
sad.
I know, that's bizarre. You say that, it's like, oh yeah, we're old.
Young guys.
But then he's like, oh, you're just using all the data and stuff like that, whereas taking the human element out of it. So in their part, like using all that information wasn't going to help them. That wasn't how they were going to, assist them in making a decision. And then there was another, there's other people where you'll find that it's that analysis paralysis where he's like, oh, but the data said all this, this data said all that. It's like, yeah, but no, because the other wants that. No. So it's the, I guess I see all the, this information, the way that AI roles works, I suppose, is and enabling us to assist and to get back into that human interaction ultimately, which is where we can help and have our influence.
Yes. I think the key thing at the moment, and it'd be really interesting, like how it grows and gets bigger, but the key thing is to see it as a tool that can assist you guys in the industry perform your job better, and not to be scared of. I guess it's like the idea of like the mobile phone coming in or the internet coming in, and it really disrupting everything. This isn't like the hugest disruption where like now you just click on the 3 buttons like Zillow and a Terminator comes and sells your house. Like Arnie shows up and it's just like, I'll be back to Zell.
Same here.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I thought of it earlier. I was like, I've got to drop it in somewhere.
You will sign this contract.
Yeah. Come with me if you want to sell. But if we
the contract.
Oh yeah, nice. Nice, that's even better. Yeah. If you see this as a tool that can help maximize your time, like if the data can analyze these are the hottest leads of the people interested in the property, they're the ones to call first, rather than.
That is a really good segue when you start to look at client engagement and how you can use AI as well. So
Yes.
realestate.com is one of the companies we use, and most consumers wouldn't be aware that REA actually rank them.
Yes,
1 to
based
10.
on their
and
behaviours.
So when we get an inquiry from somebody, we can actually look at their ranking and make an assumption on how serious a buyer they are. Now, obviously, once again, not guaranteed, but I actually used this tool heaps when I sold last year. I was really strict. The market was very busy a year ago. We were selling things within a couple of days, weren't we? Most times, John. And I said to my dad, I'm doing an open home on Saturday. You can only bring people through early if they have a score of 7 or higher on realestate.com's results. So I was happy if they couldn't make the open home and they wanted a private inspection, if they had a high REA score. But if they had a score of 1 or 2 and they wanted an early inspection, I was like, nah, don't worry
they
about
can wait
it.
till
They can
the
wait till the open home.
Sure.
And so I use that to qualify my buyers as to who I was going to. Now I could obviously do that because I've got access. The general vendor can't. But it's an interesting way to look at how you can decide on someone's value.
That's a perfect reason to use an agent who is willing to use some of these tools, like rather than just being like, oh yeah, I'm the agent that does it, boots to the ground. I still put all the letterbox drops and do all these things that we did 40 years ago. If you've got an agent who can kind of maximize their time and be like, oh yeah, I've got hot leads, cold leads. I'll still deal with the cold leads. They can come to the open home. But if the data says this guy's likely to buy a place in the next 3 months, why wouldn't you be nurturing that relationship over the ones that aren't those ones? So it's using it again as a tool to maximize your time and get the most out of your agent and the sale of your property.
And definitely. And look, the reason why I was really keen on ranking my buyers before choosing who got to come through and who didn't get to come through was that for a lot of vendors, it's stressful to sell in-house and you don't want to have to get it ready 50 times in a week. And Abby was like stickler perfect. Like everything had to be millimeter perfect.
Which is great.
Which is fantastic, but it meant there was a bucket load of work every time we wanted to show somebody through the house.
Yeah.
So in an ideal world, we would have just ran the open home, everyone come to the open home and be done with it. But there was a couple of buyers that couldn't make it.
Yeah.
And then we had to make a decision, do we let them in early? Because that's going to add extra pressure to us, extra work. And at that time, we were in a market where, we probably didn't even need to show them through because somebody would have come to the open and bought it anyway.
Yep.
But yeah, it was just a way for us to make sure that we didn't feel like we were wasting our time preparing the house for a showing.
Yep.
For somebody who was going to walk in and walk straight back out 2 minutes later.
No, but look, it's the power of taking that data, interpreting it in the way that it needs to be done. And yeah, I guess it's such a broad topic, this AI thing, and there's so many different tools that are popping up and they seem to be popping up on the reg. Are there any other ones that you kind of want to talk to, Pat or John, before we kind of wrap up today? I know I was going to Nino's popped together a really good blog about a bunch of the tools, and I was kind of going in and adding my 2 cents. We're kind of collaborating on this thing. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I'm Frankensteining this, but he's like, oh no, man, like you're passionate about it. Like it's something that you're doing all the time. So,
well, there was one. I was watching a video about why AI generated art can't do hands yet. Which I thought was really fascinating. And I think it's a good bookend to it because it's that thing where go back to your examples of rooms. Like there are so many photos of rooms and archives of rooms of what rooms should technically look like, what a clean sink should technically look like. But the problem is that archiving hands is incredibly complex because every little thing is just so dynamic in the way that your hand moves.
I hope people are watching the video.
It's
not
and hand people as well. You know how people
there's no way, like what's hand look holding phone? Okay, but how should a hand hold the phone? And so that's why when in theory, there's like a small archive for the AI to draw from what is a hand, but it can't conceptualize how a hand actually works. So
unless you've put in the prompt like holding the phone with the fingers wrapped around, like if you've been really specific about.
And it's fascinating you talk about hands because Aaron and I were playing with this unicorn on a car recently.
We sure were.
It sounds really weird, but there was a 90s real estate unicorn. And we had giving the thumbs up laying across the car was our prompt for the AI. Yeah. And the hand was what you were rebuilding.
That's where I was rebuilding,
So you were using vector drawing to recreate its hand because it just looked a bit janky. So it's very interesting that you point out that because that's exactly what we experienced when we created our little unicorn mascot last week using AI.
So that's the thought, I suppose, with is there a barrier that technology will never be able to cross of the human experience? And is that a means that no matter what, it will always depend on each other to...
Well, I guess we'll have to rebridge this topic in episode 750, John.
Exactly.
See where we're at.
Well, the interesting thing is the last thing I wanted to bring up was I think it's 11 Labs or something where it basically can create really good voice models.
Oh, yeah.
So essentially we could train a voice model into doing a podcast for us by episode 700. We won't even be in the studio, baby. It'll just be, and I think eventually we'll be able to train it to be like, Aaron, try and stay off topic. John,
well,
talk around a topic.
I'll add one more scary AI fact into the system as well. Last week, there is an AI company that just signed with one of Hollywood's largest management companies. For deepfake and voice recognition. So that celebrities will no longer need to do paid gigs to sell products. The deepfake and the voice product from AI will just create it for them.
And you're paying for their copyrights to their face almost.
Yeah, exactly. I remember there being a really bad Bruce Willis one at that Russia did, and he was just like, whatever, do your thing.
So this is coming. So the celebrities will be able to make more money with doing less work.
Yeah. Paul Walker in Fast 10. I'm putting it out there. Putting it out there now. I bet they bring him back.
I can't wait to see how they bring him back.
I bet they bring him back. Don't worry. He'll be there. I reckon there'll be time travel this time. I actually feel like they've gone to space. What's the next thing they do? They'll go back in time.
But they in
Nine, we've got to get Paul back somehow.
Didn't they in Nine actually reference the fact that they never seem to die? Like actually just point it like, this is just nuts.
I don't know if it's called jumping the shark anymore. It's just like anything can happen in the fast universe.
Look, that's what I think. At least it's okay for it to do. It's just like, look, how can we just keep pushing the boundaries, knowing that this is just bonkers. And I think that's what works. It's just that we're going to keep rolling with this. So obviously 10 will probably be where it cuts off, I suppose, at this point. But
I believe they say 11. This isn't important to the podcast, but I believe they say 11 is the end of it.
Well, maybe 11 might be created by AI. There we go.
Could be done. There you go. Fast 10 written, or it probably is written by AI anyway already. Wow. Look, I love talking about this stuff. I could probably continue to do it for the rest of the day. If anyone wants to contact the Property Pod and discuss any of these tools with us, happy to do so.
If you've got a tool you want us to prompt and use, yell out.
Yeah, we'd love to do that too. We're going to talk about that social media one that. Yeah, cool, sweet. That's just prompted me. There you go. Thank you. Anywho, episode 151. Next one, we might write the whole episode with AI. We'll see what.
Well, that would be something.
Yeah. Shout out to all our listeners. Shout out to everybody out there in the real estate world, and thank you for joining us along the ride.
Thanks, guys.
See ya. Bye. You have been listening to The Property Pod, recorded and edited by 414 Media House in conjunction with 414 Property Code.
This podcast is general information only, and the thoughts and views expressed is the opinion of our panel, and listeners should always seek then use their own investigation into any topic we discuss to ensure they fully understand their own situation.
It does not constitute and should not be relied on as purchasing, selling, financial or investment advice or recommendations, express or implied, and it should not be used as an invitation to take up any agent or investment services. No investment decision or activity should be undertaken on the basis of this information without first seeking qualified and professional advice.